So, hey everybody, I'm Chef Blake, or most people, some people know me as Maurice, but I go by Chef Blake. I started Black Rose Pastries LLC back in 2006. This is right when I started enrolling in culinary school. Throwback to Le Cordon Bleu of Chicago. Yeah. Ever since then, I've been just kind of working in the industry, developing the skill set and craft as I see necessary and as I see fit. Since since starting Black Rose Pastries, I've went on and I've started competing, teaching, and traveling, and kind of exploring sugar art as a whole in its entity. So doing things like local and national cake competitions
Mm.
and sugar sculpture competitions, whether it be chocolate or isomalt or a sculpted cake and things of that nature. Interestingly enough, most of the experience that I have has come from I would call OJT, right? So real world, real life, on the job training. I wasn't able to finish culinary school, which I think is kind of important to know, right? Um, because while I did gain some skill sets while in culinary school, it was really the application and the experiential learning that I kind of that helped me propel my career forward. Since then, I've kind of developed my brand, Black Rose Pastries, to operate as Steel City Bakery as well, a more urban, kind of refreshed, youthful brand in a sense that just really kind of gets down to my roots from Chicago.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
For sure.
Um, so can you talk a little bit about your experiences on television and like doing those kind of competition shows? Like how was that experience? Did you enjoy it? Like how has that shaped or influenced your career?
Absolutely. Yeah. So growing up, right? Growing up, I was always wanting to watch Food Network. And I was always attracted to these oversized, larger than life cake competitions. And I'm like, one day that's gonna be me, right? And then I got an opportunity to do so. I had literally just started competing or acting competitively, and it was my second competition where I learned of an opportunity to be filmed. They were casting. My first show included Netflix Sugar Rush. Now, I was a little bit bold and courageous when I first started. I was a little ambitious. I was so cocky and confident that I'm like, I'm going to do this. It was so much so that I didn't prep or anything for the show. I kind of learned of what it was. I don't want to say a vacation the week before, but I went to another competition literally the day before we were supposed to film and flew from that competition in Oklahoma with Carrie Vincent. At the time, she's a former Food Network judge. And I started competing on my very first show, Netflix Sugar Rush. Now, when I tell you that I walked into a kitchen unbeknownst to anything, it was unlike no other. Luckily, some odd, what, 8 to 10 years worth of experience later of continuously baking, um, I was more prepared than what I thought I would have been, but the pressures of a kitchen can really get to you. They can really
Mhm.
get to you. So in 2018, having competed on Sugar Rush for the Adriana Zumbo, that's like he's like known for zumbarons or macarons, and all of the fancy entremets. And then you have Candace Nelson, which is the founder of Sprinkles. She just made cupcakes like popular, and then you have Betsy Johnson, who was a fashion and industry icon of all things lifestyle. And then obviously you have the youthful nature of Hunter March. But essentially I was able to compete. And man, when I say I showed up with confidence and I don't want to say arrogance, but I know how to bake, right? so, so I showed up with confidence with my partner, Patty, and we just crushed the competition. Round one, round two, and round three. Cupcake confection and sculpted cake, all within a 5 hour unrealistic time frame, right?
Yeah.
so, so really taking this culmination of all these different experiences and kind of bottling it down, and improving that not only one as long as you're confident in what you have to do and you have the skill set, then and you are open to taking the challenge, then you can go out and show your stuff, right? I was able to compete and win first place on Netflix Sugar Rush, which was the
That's
onset of my
awesome.
competitive career. Yes, ever since then, it's just been like it's been this addiction to compete, to showcase, to do all of these amazing things that relates to sugar art. My world has expanded beyond what I would see on TV, and now I've become one of the people who are on TV.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, what is like your favorite type of creation to make, or what's like the most challenging for you?
Oh my goodness. So I think the most challenging type of creation to make is also maybe my favorite at times, right? And I'll say that with this. I really love to have a creative freedom over an artistic kind of freedom over the designs that I create because I have all of these imaginative things. Growing up, I was, I watched a lot of cartoons, a lot of anime, and I was just like the one who sketches, sketches just a little bit. A lot of HDTV too. So I really had all these DIY style ideas in my head, and then I found out that I could take my food and make it look like that. So anything that you see that is not supposed to be edible, those are the things that I like to make. So whether it's a 12-foot by 12-foot Avengers display, traveling through maybe a ring to face an evil, on the set of a Doctor Strange for Disney, or maybe it's recreating Lady Gaga, her most iconic look with the origami dress
Mm.
on at the Met Gala
I
from
was gonna
20.
say the meat, but that was
Yeah, well, the meat dress is pretty cool, but you can kind of recreate that. But to create cake to look like paper, it's
yeah.
more difficult, right? I mean, I might be a little crazy, but but to make the cake look like paper and to stand up in a way that's gravity defying and still have
Yeah.
realism so that when you look at it, you're not like, oh, that's a as seen on TV kind of version of Lady Gaga, but like that's Lady Gaga, you know.
Yeah.
So things of that nature. I love to create ultra realistic sculpted pieces that are just like there's no way that that can be edible, and then you break it open and eat it.
Yeah. So, to transition into World of Chocolate, I heard that you are going to be creating a sculpture for this event. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I am super excited. The World of Chocolate has made its grand return. We are coming through swinging and taking over the Union Station. And I have been charged with making the centerpiece, like a showpiece, essentially. I'm super excited because I get to create almost these geometric shapes and integrate a piece that kind of evokes unity, evokes partnership with the different collaborations in terms of the Reform School, and showcase some of my roots, some of that urban culture, in order to still convey that message. Now, the piece is still being comprised, right? Because there's a lot of creative aspects to it. But to be able to showcase chocolate in more ways than one. So you can expect to see various uses of chocolate in ways that you probably won't expect. So I'm envisioning that a lot of people would see some poured sculpted piece. That's fantastic, right? And nothing against any of the chocolatiers out there, but those pieces are absolutely amazing. But I want to do a Chef Blake's way. That's what I want to do. So I want to sculpt something. I'm going to sculpt an ultra realistic looking piece that is really going to be comprising even color schemes, texture patterns, Art Deco design, bringing in some of that Chicago architecture, and just the mission as a whole to for unity, including infinity symbols. And things of that nature. But I'm just really excited. I can't say that there's a very specific vision for the piece yet, but I do know that it is going to be both intriguing, inviting, and something that people have not ever seen.
Well, that is quite the description. That sounds really cool. I'm super excited to see it. Um, and then why is it important to you to be involved in the community, and also like participate in an event like World of Chocolate for the AIDS Foundation of Chicago?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's super important for me to be involved in the community for two reasons. And I should be able to address being involved with the Illinois AIDS Foundation of Chicago, um, and in the same sentence or sense. But for me, it's important to show representation, especially in the sugar art community. There's a lot of diversity and inclusion that's happening right now, and there's a lot of highlight on diversity and inclusion. For me growing up, I didn't see a lot of representation as it relates to, a person of color, a brown skinned person, playing in their food, right? Especially in a positive way. It was always something that was kind of spin. So for me, one of the most important aspects is to say, hey, look, it's this guy from the south side of Chicago. I went to school on the west side. And I'm like, it wasn't it my life was very circumstantial, right? It was not easy. We grew up in subsidized housing. And to look back and reflect on that, it's like, wow, I'm the kid who was sitting in front of the TV saying, I want to do that someday. And while I was inspired by a lot of different things, I didn't see a lot of people who may have looked like me. so, so I want to be that representation for people of all ages, backgrounds, and colors to do that. Not only do I get to showcase an example? But for me, it hits home when we think about supporting an organization like the Illinois Foundation of AIDS, especially with the mission to end the AIDS pandemic by 2030, I believe that's the date. Because I know people who have been personally afflicted and have been HIV positive. I've known people whose numbers have reached levels that they were deemed to have contracted AIDS because the T cells aren't there and the viral load count is just too high. I've seen people suffer and lose their lives over it. I've also seen people recover from that and go to numbers that are undetectable and live very healthy, sustainable lives. And I think that by joining that, especially with the LGBTQIA community, QIA plus, I'm sorry, or what I call my rainbow friends, my Skittle friends. Um, it's just something that it only makes sense to support. It really does. Like if you don't support it, for me, and I'm gonna say this, and I say quote it, that's an evil in your heart. there's an evil, there's an evil in your heart. And I'm too close with a lot of different people of all walks of life. Um, and I think that rainbow is all inclusive, and that this mission particularly is one that just needs to be on the forefront and supported. And if I can leverage any of anything that I have going on for me in order to drive awareness to this, then I am 100% behind it.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Thank you. That was a really amazing answer and
Oh, thank you. I didn't
more
even prep for it.
appreciative.
I didn't even prep for any of this. I'm like, oh, I hope she don't ask hard questions.
No, no. Yeah, definitely. Like it affects everyone more than people realize, and so it's definitely an important um cause that everyone should care about.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I really do.
and I believe this is not your first World of Chocolate. So, can you what are you like most looking forward to for this year?
Oh my goodness. It's definitely not my first World of Chocolate. It's actually my second, right? So my first World of Chocolate, I kind of went into it a little ignorant, right? I'm like, oh, great. It's about to be a room full of chocolate. I must be walking around eating. And then I was completely overwhelmed in the most positive way possible. My first year, we were doing something that was just, I say it was simple and basic. We infused chocolate, we dehydrated fruit, and we had a setup station there. Unbeknownst to me, I wasn't aware of how magnificent the space was. It was a competition. It was so much support in that night, so much exposure. And now I'm coming back because now I have to show myself from 3 years ago, from the last World of Chocolate, that hey, look, this is what it was about. And now you have the opportunity to be even more impactful, because back then I was a beginner. I didn't know anything. Let's just call it, I was the most chocolate novice. And now I'm like, let's showcase everything. Let's showcase to the judges, one, because there is a hidden competition, and I'm always about the competition. Let's showcase to the judges that I can too create something sweet, something savory, and a libation that is just absolutely phenomenal, and that's going to be competitive. But not only that, we're going to drive some incremental support in order to help us reach where we need to get to with this fundraising. So for me, it's about showcasing my talent and creativity through the showpiece, showcasing the fact that all the stuff that you see on TV with me is 100% real. Right. So you're going to get the taste, you're going to get the look, you're going to get the aesthetic, you're going to get the energy, and you're going to get the experience. And I get to do that in one of the most iconic places, the Union Station. Like, who else is going to be able to say we like shut down the Union Station for like whatever amount of time to play with chocolate?
Yeah.
Me, I get to say that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And last question, can you give like a sneak peek of what you're going to be serving for people to sample?
Yes, yes. So as I may have mentioned earlier, I do plan on hitting all three categories here. There will be a sweet, a savory, and a libation. I think that it's important for me to show some culture there. And one of the things that I love are bananas, right? So I'm torn in between a chocolate banana bread pudding or a bananas Foster creme brulee with a chocolate infusion there. Now you'll see maybe a mole. You'll see a mole there to bring in some of my friends and kind of my love for Hispanic foods and culture, with some good old Southern maybe chicken and waffles. so
That sounds
so I
amazing.
plan on having a full course meal washed down by a libation that is like, if it is eaten all separately, it's going to be amazing. But if you just so happen to take one of each, you have a small little meal happening.
That's amazing. That's incredible.